You could.
Okay. Hey, we're having fun. We're back. It's Spencer Foreman and Chris Latham. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How you doing today?
We're here for Marketing Hub ideas. And today's topic, we're not sure. We were talking about whether we're going to call this a pod or we're going to call it a stream because it's a live YouTube show. But the truth
conversation.
Is that is a pod good? Because you've got the P2P. I remember what was the other one you
Person
got
to
from
person.
What was the other one?
I forget the second one. These gems, they just keep rolling out.
They're
so frequent and rolling out, I forget them.
What I got to do is, first of all, I got to go to the trademark online and get a couple of things locked down. But we were just joking. A couple topics like today's thing is really a good example of what we're going to discuss in action. We're talking about whether we call this a pod or a stream or it's whatever. The concept is it's two professional marketers having a conversation about the modern ways to do stuff. And then I was just joking with you because I'm wearing all my gear. I'm, like getting ready for surgery. I'm an old man. You're a younger man. It's like I was joking with you about an old movie I saw, White Men Can't Jump, from the 80s, and how things change. But you can look at a movie, you can look at furniture, you can look at clothing, you can look at appliances, and I can always tell immediately what era that came from.
Yeah. And it's the same thing with websites and marketing as well. The different tactics people are using, how things are built, and the way they're approached. You could tell what era has the person evolved since that era has been at its prime, at its peak.
Exactly. And so I think we'll tie this together and say, and I'm also figuring out what's a good format for our little layout here. So I'll be adjusting this a bit. Is that what I think we ended up with is a situation where you and I felt, and that's why we're doing this, that there's two worlds. There's the GoHighLevel world. And by the way, look, they hooked me up.
Nice swag.
I'm wearing my GoHighLevel bling. I've got a whole array of bling here. By the way, you can kind of see the wide view of the rehab office studio here.
The million dollar man setup.
So what we're talking about is the idea that GoHighLevel has a whole suite of ready to go stuff, and it's singular 97 or 297, which draws in this enormous number of either implementers or marketers. On the WordPress side of things, where I have made my bread and butter for 20 years and a leading authority in the space, we have people who go down to that flea market of 70,000 things and come up with random solutions. But that is changing. One of the things we do independently on WordPress is we create a ready-to-go solution called WP Marketing Hub. When you put those two worlds together, priced the same, you end up for a single person or for an agency implementer, everything you need, but the common sense, which I like, are paradox. You've got an old-time marketer who's been doing this since, I'm a 1966 born marketer, and you were born, you said I was in the 80s?
88, late 80s. You were the dragon.
I graduated college in 88, just to put that in perspective. But that's the beauty of this. So we're joking in the context of we're going to do this content because it's really fun for people. Like I do this myself. I'm driving, I'm usually walking, I'm biking, and I want to listen to something intelligent that's fun and amusing, but it's not like step by step. We're not going to be like doing mechanics here. That we'll do independently.
Yeah.
Right?
And it also gets your creative juices flowing, because sometimes you listen to certain podcasts, it's so back and forth, but sometimes you want to just come up with a different takeaway and a different perspective on things to help you better yourself in what you're doing as well.
And we don't know, actually, this reminds me, while we're talking about this, if it's a pod or a stream, this reminds me, I need to check to make sure we're actually live, because nobody else is going to do it but me. I'm running the controls here. So let me just make sure we actually are audio output. Yes. It's always good to check. One day we'll get an engineer. We are good. Okay. So whether we call this a pod, we call it a stream, the idea is we're going to talk about stuff that people can consume, put a birdie in their ear. And now I want to relate it back to the time, because see, I spent a couple shows this week on my other channels talking about the idea of how to market in 2024. And one of the things that, me being in a little, a couple years older than you, I remember the days before we had access to unlimited AI and automation tools. There were gatekeepers, there were wait lists, there was everything. Your biggest aspiration when I was my first business, when I was 10 years old, I can talk about that story maybe in an NSFW way, is that it was like you got a magazine that came once a month. You had a newspaper that came once a day. You had TV. You were never getting on TV unless you were a major company. And so the notion was everybody had all this blank space. So getting noticed meant building personal relationships one by one. That was the shortcut. Well, today we have the opposite. We have a world of infinite business ideas, infinite free everything, infinite technology, power of automation. So now you have moms and pops and kids and adults and everybody professionally and otherwise all democratized. But that creates its own problem, right? You're essentially putting all of the fish of the ocean into one swimming pool and like good luck getting the bait. Whereas we're saying the opposite. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
and even with that, right? Like, even though now people are more distracted, there's more content, there's more eyeballs being put on things. We all know eyeballs are currency. One would say it's more competitive now, but also it's even easier to rise to the top because everyone's doing the same low-hanging fruit marketing effort and effect to capture attention. Let me do something clickbaity. But if you found a way to personalize things in the long run, month 3, 4, 5, 6, that'll compound in and of itself. And I'm always a fan. Just do the extra 10% nobody else wants to do, and no one's doing it because it's work. But if you're the only one doing the work, you're the only one who's going to reap the benefits of those rewards.
Yeah. And I think the takeaway from that is you can choose. Like, for example, I was this weekend, I got off, well, it's not the weekend yet, but it's Saturday morning. Yesterday evening, I was chilling out and I was actually sitting in the therapeutic inflatable hot tub. And my COVID, I have a COVID hot tub and a COVID bubble that still lives. And I just pop on in there and it's like the best $500 I've ever spent. I was sitting in there chilling out before coming in for a medicinal bourbon. And I was looking at some Instagram stuff and I noticed I got hooked onto, I think they're authentic, but I put a kind of like asterisk next to it. The affiliate marketing system, whatever. And I noticed a trend because once you get into any social network, you get like one type of video and then you get all of that from everybody. And it was the idea of using the power of Canva, which I talk about all the time, combined with creating content and then putting it on Pinterest or Instagram of you go find your affiliate products and you sign up and then you create a Stan site, which is like a free website or one of those like blink list things. And then you go over here and you tell everybody you're a fitness guru and you don't have to show your face and you put up the pictures and just do this 3 times a day and you'll be making $140,000 a month, just like my husband and I, and we'll pay for our everything in the world. I go, that's amazing. Because like for 20 years, I must have been doing something wrong, that it's just that simple. Now, I am not saying these people are not genuine, but I'm saying here's the opposite. The opposite is whatever the technology may be, whatever it is that people do, whether you're using the stack we're talking about, Go High Level with the Marketing Hub, or you're just doing something mundane like our Poofka simple plan. Here's the truth. Underneath all of it, hi, Zach, underneath all of it, is a relationship with a human being. And so what I think we're going to talk about with the power of personalization today is, okay, whichever tactic you want to try, is it necessary? Is it important to have your face, your name, your relationship involved? And my argument, and I don't know you're going to disagree, my argument is yes, because there are businesses we've all seen where you never know who the hell is behind it, but we're in a world of AI. And now, did you see, by the way, was it called Sora?
Sora. Yeah.
Sora. Okay.
That's really impressive. That's going to help with some marketing creative, speed up the process.
Right. So like, let's use Sora as an example. Sora, for those who may not be tuned in on this stuff, is Sora is coming out as a product from OpenAI, which it's very interesting also to me that I don't blame them, but initially OpenAI was like a nonprofit. We're just making the tools and everybody else can make third-party stuff. And then they go, Sam Altman's not stupid. Maybe we should make all of our own apps and stuff. So whether it's DALL-E or it's Sora, you've now got the ability as like a mom and a pop or a young or an old person sitting at home to essentially generate movie studio quality live videos, imagery.
You could create a script, you could create the image cover, you could create a little trailer with it. The possibilities are endless. And I think what's interesting there is that it's only the start. It's like the first version of an iMac. It's only going to get better. And that's the part I'm really excited for, is because one, on the marketing side of things, it gives you more creative freedom. You're able to really pinpoint things and not spend as much money on getting a designer to build something all the way through, or at least get the mock when the designer knows exactly what you want, and it speeds up the time. So when I think all the people are scared about losing jobs, it's like going from horse and carriage to motor vehicles. It's just going to change, and we're all going to evolve and create new jobs from that. And the biggest part there is just speed of execution. Speed of delivery is going to be exponentially faster and better.
right? And you know what's interesting to me is that if you combine the things together, like I love it that you mentioned first generation. So we also had, for some geeks, the Apple. What's the name of the
The
VR
Vision
head?
Pro.
Right, the Vision Pro, which I was told that many people who paid the 3,500 used it, and then right before their return policy ended, they just returned it because it's just like one of those things. Like I had the Quest, still do. I give it to my college kid. It's good for a couple things, NSFW or not. But at the end of the day, it's a bit of a gadget and a gimmick because you put it on your head and you already have like a bowling ball on a stick, and now you're trying to put another 5 pounds on it. But when you combine the concept of individuals being able to create endless arrays of mashups of audio and video and text and sales and marketing, and then you change the metaphor of where that people consume it or can consume the content. Maybe it's not going to be endlessly on the screen of your desktop, or maybe it's not going to always be on the phone. Maybe we'll get to be in wearables or implantables or augmented realities inside of devices. And the point I'm making is, let's use that now as the conversation for my argument, which is, where is the one thing that's consistently going to be true if you're going to invest time and effort into marketing, if you're investing into selling? It's the human part, right? It's the, if you're not the name and the face associated with whatever, which by the way is perfectly fine, then the brand and whatever you do requires you to constantly be competing on other parameters. Versus if you have a relationship, I would argue that's actually the least competitive channel.
But then not putting your face into the marketing, into being what I like to call either the spokesperson or the mascot of the brand of the business, you're taking the hard route. Like this is something you could try to leverage once you're at a bigger scale and you have a bigger team, you could pull yourself out. But when I think of brands that people always remember, you're going to have Flow from Progressive. You see Flow, you think Progressive. We have Ronald McDonald's for McDonald's. You see the clown, you're automatically thinking McDonald's. There's the gecko. There's even the bald-headed Mr. Clean guy. These are these things where you have that spokesperson, whether it's you or somebody you trust. It allows people to build a parasocial relationship with you. There's so many people to relationships with you via YouTube or your favorite YouTuber. Is the more you see that face and you relate that face to a particular service, product, or help, if you're starting out, that is your biggest advantage because all of your competitors do not want to put their face because they're all thinking, oh, I shouldn't be there. It's too much work. I'm not video ready. No one cares if you're video ready. As long as you're putting a face, we're buying from someone. If I see you on your site and I call you up and it's you talking, I'm like, holy shit, you're actually talking to me. It's actually you. I'm like, I'm totally shocked that you actually picked up the phone. And then if I come to your business and you're there as well, I build that relationship with you ahead of time and I'm going to want to keep coming back to you over and over again versus you being some nameless brand. And I think the best example of that would be like the whole Bud Light situation. Like, if you're at the bottom of the tier brand, it's easy for people to swap around. But if I'm attached to a brand and a person, I'm not going to leave as fast. There's more of that stickiness factor.
I mean, there's two levels at which that works. First of all, I'll refer to the fact I like this pod. It's got Sam Parr and Sean. I want to say Shani, his partner. They both successfully did business launches that made a bunch of money, and they talk about these kinds of things, which are to a certain degree very appealing to me. Although I think they're in a different sort of reality zone because of their notoriety. So, for example, I do have the benefit of swinging with some people with big success, but it's like when you hang with your friends and you go, I want to go to lunch, and you go, yeah, let's go to that sushi place, and like it's $50 a person. Versus like, there's other people who are like, well, we're going to that $5,000 a plate lunch, aren't we? And I'm like, that's not where normal people go for lunch, right? Even if you're a millionaire, like that's. But the point is, they had one topic which I enjoyed. They were talking about a few things, and that was the concept. I just shortchanged myself talking about the personalization aspect. So when it comes to what your competitive advantage may be, if you're ending up doing some kind of a brand that doesn't have your name in your face, you have a lot of advantages. But at the end of the day, with the changing of the technology, with the changing of the marketing, some of the best brands even surprise them. So he used in a show maybe 2 weeks ago, this thing called hostage tape, which I was impressed because I'm an old man, but I successfully use a CPAP machine, not because I'm in good shape. I've got muscle there, but like I just have, like a CPAP. So when I lean back, I have to use it. It's brilliant. Some people don't quite use that, but they find that they open their mouth and snort. So this one dude came up with the idea, just like the Dollar Shave Club. I'm just going to take some special hockey tape or I don't know, it's athletic tape or doctor tape. He's cutting it into strips. And it's a branding, it's a marketing thing. It's literally tape cut into single-use strips that won't either pull your skin off or will still work if you have a beard, and put it in a box that looks like little Sucrets containers and sells it for like $1 jillion per package. But the point is, it's because it's called hostage tape and because it's singular purpose. And so Sam Parr had originally made a point that when he saw the idea, he's like, that's the dumbest thing ever. So the first year, $1.5 million of sales. Second year, $3.5 million. Now they're like $14 million of sales selling little cut pieces of hockey tape that you put on your mouth to prevent you from snoring. And the point is, like the Dollar Shave Club guy, that doesn't work if there wasn't like a guy or a woman or a person behind it. That person went out and was tweeting to, they call them their army of hostages or something like that. Hey, Sam Parr said we're idiots. Tell him otherwise, right? And that's the thing. You have to have like the leader of the pack, the
I could say
William Wallace.
They're similar to that, where, like, again, being an 80s baby, growing up in high school, Axe was the biggest thing that came out. It smelled terrible, but everybody went to Axe. But I vividly remember when it went from Axe to Old Spice. And like Old Spice always had, it's your grandpa's, it's your dad's deodorant. That's when they got the topless dude in the model who would sit on a horse backwards. I'm on a horse. I'm going backwards.
Right.
Because of that brand and that person, we all started buying Old Spice. And you need some brands at that certain level. You need that face. You need that person to attract the demographic there. And if you're going the faceless brand, good luck, unless you got crazy buckets, crazy dollars, or you're doing the squatty potty and you get an animated unicorn taking a poo that looks like ice cream, which comes with a lot of budget.
I mean,
so use your best asset.
He was talking about another one, his mother-in-law, where he created some Smithy's pillows, Smithy's Home Furnishings. And there's a guy around my neighborhood, Marcus Lamonis, who runs Bed Bath & Beyond and some other stuff. The point is that he was saying that it is possible that the individual doesn't necessarily have to be the face of the brand, but that person, both in the hostage tape and the Smithy's pillows, or even when you talk about like Dollar Shave Club and so forth, the person who's running it is a real human being. The Sponge Daddy creator on Shark Tank and everything else. I feel like as a choice, if you can pick a strategy, the better strategy for at least somebody who enjoys being on camera or in some way the face of the brand is to do that. I'm not saying it's the only way, because we clearly can see that there's other stories of, like, there's a Ukrainian company that they were talking about in another show that just is churning out all kinds of YouTube channel content, and they have even done full-length soap operas, and they're completely nameless and faceless. That's totally doable. There's another brand, by the way. Have you ever heard of Built With? Do you know what Built With is?
No.
So Built With is this Australian fella. Let me call this up on the screen. So really inspiring story. I'm going to just randomly say.
Oh, the software. I thought it was a YouTube channel.
I know, right? So like essentially what this is competitive intelligence. And I don't know if this is going to give his name here. Let's see if it's got the about, because he's Australian or New Zealander. Here it is. This fella, Andrew Rogers. No, Gary Brewer. Gary Brewer is the original guy. I don't know if Andrew Rogers was really there, but when I know about Gary Brewer, his name rings a bell. He essentially, in 2007, almost like the guy who did Plenty of Fish, the dating site in Canada, Marcus Friend. He had like one server. He's a total geek. It wasn't about his name and face, but he was like sort of the guy who'd be on Stack Overflow all the time. And he essentially built this thing that made it possible to scrape the web for competitive intelligence. And I don't know the exact number, but the last time I looked into it, he was making like $6 to $10 million a year with one computer and him alone, with just the basics of what this does, which is you can put in a website, you could put like, WooCommerce, okay, or something, and you can look and see all the competitive things you need to know, like who's using it and how many websites. They give you reports, and they will give you lists of companies that have those plugins installed. The takeaway, the point is, extremely high leverage, extremely high revenue for a technology solution, but it wasn't necessarily like they were trying to get consumer brands in minds versus something like, this, which Sponge Daddy, the Sponge Daddy, it's America's favorite sponge. This is this guy who is looks like a great marketer. Let's see if he's here. His face should be on here. Oh, it's interesting. Like, I'm sure they got to have his face on it, but he was all over Shark Tank. They're saying his name and stuff, but it's interesting that they don't actually put it in here. But it's here's where's his name? The,
Aaron,
uh,
Aaron something.
where's his name? Aaron. So Aaron Krause. Aaron Krause. Now it's interesting they don't show his name because he was obviously on Shark Tank and everything else. So this guy, let's see if he pops right up. I'm sure he does. So everybody can identify with that story, and I'm sure for many people like my, it was like a round sponge with you put your finger in the hole. Like that's basically it. And so the takeaway for me was, look, we can have the whole stack of stuff, a marketing hub. You can have all the go high level stuff. You can have everything that I've learned in 20 years. But at the end of the day, what many people want is somebody like a Spencer or Chris to go, look, it's just stick your 3 fingers in the hole and go like this, and it solves your problem. Or here's a razor blade that you get the refills once a month. Or here's a thing that you put in front of your toilet so your knees are higher and everything comes out faster. Ta-da. Versus
Just building
I've built,
trust.
yeah.
It's
Well,
essentially building trust through putting your face out there.
the personalization aspect of it to me is that somebody who is today's consumer in a world of infinite possibilities, they really want something spoon fed to them, right? So when I've spoken to people and my students about what's the best way to do a above the fold area of your website, it's just 3 things, right? It's what's the pain point or pretty picture you want to paint, what is the thing that your company or your solution does, and then what's the call to action. Usually it's a singular call to action, like get it now, but it could be learn more, get it now. But the point is that I think many people, that's as far as their patience or willingness to learn goes, unless or until somebody catches their short attention span, right? Shockingly, with yes, you could do an AI video. And we didn't talk about this, but we should probably discuss it. Have you gone to the trouble of having your voice recreated digitally?
No, I've thought about it, and it's for me, there's like the whole privacy thing that has me a little concerned. But I did remember hearing the Joe Rogan podcast that someone rebuilt with AI. I think it was 11 Labs from like over a year ago now, I think.
I think it's been around forever because there's tons of companies, Speechify, and I used Descript originally.
Yeah,
Back,
the script's the one you could chop out your video and rewrite the words and take the words out, which is a huge life and time saver, especially for people that like to say a lot.
exactly. Well, for those that don't know, Descript was an original AI kind of thing, but it wasn't like OpenAI. It was just that it would allow you to take hours, or they would take hours of your voice from videos and otherwise. They would digitize it, including intonation and all the other things. And then you could use it if you were video editing to say, I don't like this whole section. And it would just automatically recreate it from the words that you typed. But the other output of this as of today is that you can also use it if you're creating videos, because theoretically you can load your script in and it just generates the entire thing with your own voice. Like, hey, it's Spence.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Oh
But now you
man.
mix that together. Now imagine you put that together with currently, I'm sure there's some limits on what that Sora will do. But if I'm like, God forbid, but if I'm incapacitated enough by my old man injuries, I'm hoping that I'll essentially be able to have a digitized. I'll be like the actor who was Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars. Like he was like already dead, and they just like put him in the movie. But if I could literally make a movie of me plus my voice, and I can kind of like talk into my microphone
Hmm.
in my rehab
Without the
hot
radio
tub.
voice from back in the day.
You can see here if you're looking at the video, some of this stuff it's at openai.com/Sora, but some of these videos are incredible. I mean, like just even this thing, like the moving vehicle, and I do flight simulators, so I look at the side and I go, wow, that like really is
And
compelling. Yeah,
one thing that's interesting with
it's in red
the
zone right now.
overdub, the overdub they were talking about is you could also use that to personalize a thank you message to someone where I'm sure there'll be a way that Bob signs up and you send him to a thank you page and you say, hey, Bob, thank you for signing up. I look forward to chatting to you soon. And then if Mike signs up, it'll just reword you to saying the word Mike. So there's for sure ways, either now or already coming, where you could pre-record a script and it'll use the first name as a variable that could change in and out based on who's signing up.
There's a company, I used it myself. I want to say it's like Hey, um, video response. I think it's called Hey something. Hey, get Hey. Hold on one second. I may not remember what this is called, but there was a company that I used a little bit. It's still manual. It allows you to essentially send a video thank you message to somebody that they can then respond with a short video clip.
Oh, so
Remember the name of that
Bonjoro.
one?
That's one of the things I have on my list in terms of how to
What is
personalize
the name of that
Bonjoro.
company? Bonjoro?
Bonjoro without
Is it,
the
oh,
yeah, there you
Bonjoro
go.
there. Right. Because
That's
this
by
one,
far my favorite one.
so you were, oh, what's he doing on here?
No,
There you go.
he's growing his
Focus
brand.
on it. So the concept is, and I think this is exactly the same thing. So I can't remember the other company. I'm sure if I go back and search, this is the competitor to them. But essentially, it allows you to create spontaneous videos that are sent out as marketing automation, and then people will use their screen camera, record back to you, or they can record back to you. For example, like when I used the other one, when somebody bought, I would say, "Hey, would you, do a video clip or something?" And the concept is, back to your point, what if I could create digital virtual scripts and digital virtual images and videos of me that has 1,000 iterations, so I don't actually have to be creating it all the time, in advance. That to me seems to be a
Yeah.
potential.
And I definitely think that'd be a level two. Like when you start getting thousands of people coming in a week or a month where you physically don't have enough, there's not enough hours in the day, I think I'd go for that option. But what I like setting up for the business, whether it's the plumber or the salonist or just somebody doing any service or product, is second somebody books an appointment, it hooks into Bonjoro, and no matter where you are in your day, whether you're out doing groceries or you're getting out the car or just going for a walk, you'll get notified on your phone. Take your phone out, take a quick 20-second clip, like, hey, Dave, thank you for
Right.
booking. I look forward to meeting you on Tuesday at 4 p.m. If there's anything I need to know ahead of time, please just reply and let me know. And what I always get is a lot of business owners they get them not frustrated. They're scared of it to kind of make that video. So I don't put my face out there. They feel like it's gonna be a whole lot more work. But that 20-second video you send makes you stand out from every other business they've been with. No other business took the time to send them a personalized video. When I see you walking in the back, I'm like, oh, I know exactly where you are. You're near Stanley Park. I've been there too. And you're talking, send me a video. I know it's not pre-recorded. I know it's not fake. I know it's personal. I know it's genuine at the same time. So when I'm coming to see you, I'm already getting that bond built with you. And these are one of these things that it's easy to do. No one does it because it seems like hard work, but it's really not. It's 20 seconds of your day. You spend more time trying to fix up and typing a
Right.
text message and trying to move the cursor to take the letter E out.
I think the danger of this, I'm looking, and by the way, I'm looking on one of my sites where I use this other product to see if I can come up. The danger to me is, well, it's not a danger. It's just the likelihood of this happening. So let's say we go with the concept that personalization means you got a name and a face. You've got, look, it's Spence, because I know he's in his office with his exercise ball and his yoga mat and his whatever. But if they're giving everybody those tools to create a virtual Spence, a virtual Chris with video and voice, a virtual Chris and Spence with video, voice, and 1,000 iterations matched up to your products, then we're really sort of, I mean, we can't stop this from happening, but we're really moving into like, here's an old movie reference, like a Logan's World or Logan's Run, which was a movie back in the 70s about like the world was overpopulated. So they made it that it was perfect. But when you're 30, you had to go to this place and like volunteer to be euthanized. And then these two lovers like decided to escape the bubble. Well, if the whole entire marketing world turns into like AI generated, impossible to figure out from real, pumped in through your virtual headset stuff, it's kind of like a Logan's Run thing. Like there are going to be people who are going to be like, I'm getting out of the matrix.
But at the same time, it's all I see is benefit from that happening. Because like when you go through Instagram and if you click on a gym ad and you see everybody does the same style video, you click on a nutrition ad, everybody does the same style video. With this, everybody will be doing the exact same thing. When everybody goes right, you just need to go left. It's a whole blue ocean theory, right? So if you're the only one doing something different, because everyone's going to be craving something personal. We're in the era where people are doing AI girlfriends, they're creating AI Instagram models, which is fun and
Right.
great at the beginning, but at the end of the day, we're all going to crave that human contact. And if you're the only one taking time to send a personalized message or a video or even an email and just contact someone face to face, when everyone else is doing the same numbing thing that we all say is bad for us, but we're all going to want to do it anyways. You're standing out, and it's making your competitors aren't going to do that, and you just stand out that much more easily.
I mean, I think that's what it comes down to, is that if you, like, now I have a 13-year-old, by the way, that thing was called Video Ask. Wasn't even coming. I was so desperate to look at. I was like anal retentive. Bye, Zach. I was this is my Video Ask for a workshop, right? And it was clever because it made people engage. But like, back to the, if you were to ask people what they prefer, there are a certain number of people, and I would put myself in that category, who have like drawn back to almost hipster level of simplicity, right? I joke about all the time, my computer's right here and so forth. And I think that's what happens, is that we've all seen this. Let's use chat bots and let's use voice jail as two metaphors. Because back in the day, in the 70s, 80s, whatever, I mean, nobody had cell phones and everything. You'd call a company and be a real person, real switchboard operator. Then it was a real person at a desk. At some point, people got recording devices with tape machines, and companies would have, like, oh my God, electronic ways to get a voicemail. But the problem was, they decided that, oh, let's make this better. We'll fire that human, have voice jail, like press 1. And it was funny because in the 90s, like, shows of Seinfeld would make a joke about it. There was even a very famous, at the time, it's so quaint, like, if you wanted the movie theater times, it would be movie phone.
I remember that Seinfeld episode. Kramer would start acting. He'd be like, I don't have the paper.
Tell me the name of the movie you'd like to see. Because it was a dude in California who just used a fancy voicemail system. Press 1 for, like, Bruce Willis, Die Hard. Press 1. So the idea is that worked when there wasn't anything available, and it was actually better than finding a newspaper and looking for all the Showtimes and all the rest of the stuff. But at some point, it got absconded by people who are idiots about what human beings want. And then you got voice jail. Like, to this day, if you call a company, there's no human being that answers. It's always, for marketing department, press 1. Yeah. But it's worse.
And even if you press 0, it doesn't always work. Sometimes it just hangs up on you.
You start like agent. Now, somebody, and again, I respect them as brilliant business people, but we got Pat Flynn over there. We got Andrew Warner, who's a pal of mine through another pal, like, really brilliant marketers. Andrew Warner in particular, I don't want to pick on him for this, but he got all hyped up on bots. Maybe like 4 years ago, right before COVID, I think it was. Like, bots is the new thing. Now, that's the one bit I'm going to pick on GoHighLevel about, because GoHighLevel has the capacity for you to put bots in place. And I would say, if you put bots in place that literally start banging away at people who submit a form or submit a text, you're asking for your own demise. Because immediately when one of my clients used that with me, I was just put into a rage of, how dare you think I'm so stupid that I can't tell the difference between these mental answers this bot is giving me and making me like, it's like 1985, 1993, like I'm in this voice jail again. But then it started texting me back. And I was infuriated that GoHighLevel would give somebody a tool to do this. So
I will say one thing, though. It's not that it's GoHighLevel getting the tool. It's the way people utilize the tool. Because these bots, it's like everything. A vehicle's a great thing, but it could also be used for committing crimes. But it's just a great form of motor vehicle. But with these bots, you have to curate these things. Like, if you really want to do this whole chatbot, click here, click there. If you have two separate demographics, just have that segmentation happen so they could then be connected to the appropriate person. But this whole like automated messaging, I know there's the whole like implement OpenAI and ChatGPT into it, and we'll have the conversation on your behalf and book it for you, which sounds great and all, but we just end up going right back to the same thing from before, where you're in this like voice jail and you're never talking to a human. And I want to spend money with you. Make it easy for me. Sure, get my name, get my email, so you could contact me back. I know what I'm exchanging here. I'm not naive, but the next message I'd like for it to come from a human, and not go through this whole AI back and forth playing tennis.
I mean, I agree with your comment, because that really is where I was going to go. It's not the responsibility of the car manufacturer, the aviation maker, the knife maker. I mean, we can argue this about guns, but like, I'm not getting in that politics thing. I'm saying a tool is a tool. I did an Instagram post for my 60-second thing about like AI is a tool. It's not a solution. And in the same way, bots could be used efficiently. For example, you could configure this bot so it says, "Hi, I'm a bot. You don't have to use me. If you want, just leave a message." But it's the pretending that the thing that is not even close to the uncanny valley is a real person becomes an insult to the human being's intelligence. And what I think it's doing is it's also triggering, and this is going to become part of, I think, our marketing strategy in the future. It becomes part of the difference between what people really want for their future versus not. There's undeniably going to be people who, I mean, I've experienced it. Like I have a flight simulator that I built in the basement. I have the VR headset. I have interest in all the new, I hope my glasses, soon have like multi-language, augmented reality.
Mm-hmm.
I want to experience that when I want to experience it. But when it's becoming the standard that everybody overuses, it's almost like, well, you don't remember this, but like before your day, there was Macromedia Flash that ultimately
I remember. I used to play Flash games on the computer at school.
Everything was Flash. Like you want a Chinese food menu on the internet when it was still dial-up, and you'd wait 3 minutes for this thing to go like all the components. It was like, please Flash die. Thank God Steve Jobs killed it. But the idea is when it's foisted upon everybody all at once, it kind of reminds me back again also to my Instagram conversation where I'm in the tub chilling out and I get one person who tells me like they're making $200,000 a day on Instagram with Canva. And I'm like, oh, and then there's like 30 people. And I'm like, no, it's just not.
And I think
that's not how
one thing you mentioned there that really stands out, and it's very similar to like the whole Flash thing, is the issue, whether it's chatbots or whatever the next new thing is, it's not that the tool is bad. It's that what happens is you have a disconnect. You have the marketers that see the next shiny object. I want to use this on everything, which would be the equivalent to web developers back in the day. I got to build everything on JavaScript, although Google can't read JavaScript at the time. Right. You go back, you mentioned everything was built on Flash. What I think the disconnect happens is the marketers or the person who's creating it is so excited to use this new tool, but the business owner has no need for it, or it's not actually helping their business. And I think that's where that disconnect happens. We try to, it's like square peg in a round hole. You can't force it. If it fits, it fits. If it doesn't, it's not the right time to use it, or just use it differently. It's not meant to be.
I mean, you also bring in now, and this is an interesting conversation. It comes up frequently. So I cut my teeth on social networking. That's how I got into WordPress. First, I was in the SaaS world, the freemium SaaS world. But the idea is that the promise of social networking is 20 years now, long in the tooth, that everybody believed because Mark Zuckerberg said so, that, bye, Zachy, have a good day, bud. Believe that everything in the world was going to revolve around social networking as the solution. But the truth has turned out to be that, yes, social networking is good as an adjunct, let's say, to your main product or service. But when it comes to people buying your thing because other people are talking to them in a group, with the exception of mastermind groups or vacation clubs or dating services, it hasn't proven to be true. But here's where I'm going with this. A guy in Chicago here, Michael Eisenwater, has done extremely well making a product called Buddy Boss, which is the two components from the WordPress world of social networking stuff, like forums and groups. Very similar to what you'd get on a Facebook, but you can kind of own and control it. Him and his partner, Tom Chadai, have built this really huge business around it. But two things, and this is not a criticism, then, this is a reality. When one wants to do a social network, what I start the conversation with saying is, do you really think you're going to make more money by opening up a kids camp or a daycare center or a kindergarten than if you do it as a top-down publishing, like letters to the editor of the New York Times? Everybody can interact, but it goes through the filter of the publisher. And two is you seem to be like a moth to a flame of being an app in the App Store or the Android store is somehow better for the $5,000 plus thousands of dollars a month of constantly trying to update your app and get it continually updated by those services. Whereas you can do this for free just by having your social network. So I always turn people off to that idea. And I say, if you need a social thing, you could still just use a Facebook group or a Discord channel, or you could use a Buddy Boss thing, but streamline it down, put it on its own site. But where I'm going with all this is that that's an example to me of how the metaphor of apps, that was like, an app, man. Like Steve Jobs says, I need an app. I'm gonna make $1 trillion on an app. And like this whole industry built up. And I had a client this week who's very smart, a big company doing very well. 2 years into dicking around with trying to get a Buddy Boss app and thing going, they are so down the tube of sunken costs that this was like, I just told them that Santa Claus wasn't real. But they understood it. Like the team understood it. The C-suite person, the guy who's very nice, asked me to please write the CEO and give him the video of you telling this stuff.
And this is where I think for a lot of stuff like that, when I think of the Buddy Boss, there's the whole, yeah, but you get to own it and it's your community, no one kick anybody out. Sounds great. But why add more friction to your customers and your base have to sign up for something else? Just go where they're already at. And if there's enough of them, you can then pull them off and try to do your own thing. And like now you have School and Circle that's out there. You can just kind of migrate there. But I think for certain things, when it comes to that, you have to just live with that. You're never going to own all that data. But as long as you have a way to connect with them through different channels, that's more than enough. Because to try to own everything is going to become more headache, more stress. And if one thing goes down, now they're mad at you and it's not even your fault.
And I think the reason is that at the end of the day, I use lots of metaphors, of course, I'm killing people. Like a horse and a saddle was like the top-notch transport at one point, and then a gas-powered car, and then now we have electric cars. People still ride horses for fun, but you would look at somebody cross-eyed if they said like a horse is the modern way to get from A to B across the country. It's only 12 weeks from Chicago to California. And look out for those Rocky Mountains. So when you talk about the technology, we're in a world where a year ago, the thing that Sora does that looks like Steven Spielberg movie looked like some kind of weird modern abstract art. Like there's a Will Smith video of him eating something and it looks like it was drawn with crayons. I mean, in 10 minutes from now, blink our eyes, we're going to have headsets like this from Apple that implant into our brain that allow us to consume data. And you're going to see everybody walking around like some kind of horror movie, like doing this. Casey Neistat had some videos on this, even with the big ones. The only consistency is to filter through what of the infinite array of toys and technology things are available to selectively apply them in a human way.
And I think a big part there is like everyone's going to have this sense of FOMO, fear of missing out. But when you're talking about the Apple Vision Pro headsets and people bought them and sent them back, it's because they're for early adopters. And take ChatGPT, it's something else for early adopters, but it had that longevity because it became much more useful and more than just that one way. And the way of anything goes, there's early adopters, then there's the kind of dips and someone else comes in and then it's mainstream. And for some of these products, you have to wait for it to be mainstream before it makes sense for you to use it for your business. And I think that's where I see a lot of the problems is like even when ClickFunnels came out, it's like, oh, we got to build a ClickFunnels page. No, just build a landing page on your site. You don't need to pay an extra $297 just for a landing page, but the marketer or the person who has the shiny object is pushing it down onto this business owner. And I'll talk to some of these businesses. I'm like, why do you have this? Why do you have that? Oh, someone told me this. Like, you don't need any of that. These three things are the exact same thing, but they're trusting that person who's the professional. And as humans, we all have shiny object syndrome. So now I think as the business owner, you need to ask your marketer, the person you're dealing with, is this the best tool for me? Or are you just trying to use it because it's a cool thing? And then as a marketer, you need to ask yourself, am I using the best tool for the client? Or am I doing this because it's something I want to try out and test out? And that's where it's a little tough, but you got to be honest with yourself.
I mean, I think it's also being honest. Absolutely. I think there's also an element where what we bring to the table, what I personally feel is what I'm selling is in that relationship. It's two things. It's the concierge who knows all the latest things going on in town around the Four Seasons Hotel and knows all the right people. And number two, it's the person who's willing to be the mirror on the wall and tell you honestly, who's the fairest of them all. It's like, you're an idiot because you're talking about a horse and everybody's in flying electric cars. And here's what you should be doing. And I think that smart people today, even with big egos, and I probably feel like I have an oversized ego, I like it when people tell me what I've got wrong. Because 100%. There's an infinite array of like ways to tell myself what I want to hear, but I really want, whether it's my surgeon or my friend or in a relationship with a person or a family member, I want them to tell me the way it is, because that is the human experience. But ultimately, when we're marketing, it really is subconscious, psychological, tribal. There are things that affect a person's decision about liking or buying or whatever that cannot be done if you're using the wrong tool at the wrong time. Like, go back to my references about like timelessness, whatever. When I was a kid, there was bell-bottom jeans and disco era, big collar shirts, avocado colored appliances. If you watch a TV show like that 70s show, that was my youth. but you know immediately that's the 70s. If you watched Happy Days and you see a certain type of car or the Fonz, and you know that's the 50s. Interestingly enough, they did a study, and for things that would immediately give people visual clues, the clothes and the things of the 20s, the 2000s and on, have stopped being so definitive. Like 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you could say, oh, I know exactly what year that is. From the 2000s on, not. And I think that's because the world homogenized, the choices of the younger generation were more on screen rather than like defining oneself. And the reason this is relevant is because when you speak to people, you're really learning about them. You're learning about their preferences. It's not so obvious anymore that like hey, everybody needs a duckbill haircut, or, it's like big collar shirts. And when it comes to the technology, I think that's where we really make our bread. If you're going to use the technology and you're using it wrong, you're going to stick out like somebody with toilet paper on your shoe. And so if you make the mistake like we were referring to, and you use the chatbot technology because it's there, and you overcomplicate it, and you put your sales funnel stuff all inside of GoHighLevel instead of WooCommerce, or if you have, the email that comes 19 times a day in a world where people want one message a week, the personalization reveals you to be a fool or out of touch, versus had you had somebody, which is where we come in, that's like, look, we're call down to the front desk. We're here 24/7. Say you need this. We'll take care of telling you what the thing is. That is what not only we're selling through the marketing hub, but it's also really what we're suggesting everybody should consider for their own business. It's your face, it's your name. You're known for being at the leading edge of which toys and tools to use, because we recognize things are changing minute to minute. And tomorrow we might be talking about, man, did you see that second generation headset that connects to the virtual AI thing that does a better communication?
Exactly. And if you think of everyone's goal in business, generally is to make enough money to get more free time to spend time with their family and loved ones. What are you doing when you're spending time with your family and loved ones? Is you're connecting, you're getting that person-to-person connection going. Now, whether it's with your customers, if you could automate certain things like getting paid, sending a one reminder message, sending a follow-up saying, hey, thank you for that business, the business you brought to my business. I want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. Or even send like an automated birthday reminder. Having that mental stuff taken out of your head and done automated for you gives you now the free time to connect with your customers. Have a random phone call with a customer like, hey, Bob, how's it going? Just want to check and see how things are going. I see we've been doing business for 3-4 years, how things have been developing. It allows you to get back to that personal connection that no one else is willing to do. Because what I see happening is we utilize technology to give us more free time, and that more free time, we just end up doing more work. But the whole point of getting the free time was to do less of the work, to do more of the other stuff. But we just keep feeding that plate with more and more work and more work, and never actually getting time. And then we feel overwhelmed and stressed, and you get this thing called burnout that happens. And it's just this like trickle down effect. But if we just have these set rules of, I'm gonna give myself more free time by automating tasks, so I can spend more time connecting with people. And that's where I think we'll get most of the balance. And that's also personalization.
It's like, you remind me when you say that, it's Gary Vaynerchuk. For those who don't know, he's a couple years younger than me, but he made his name. I remember when he first showed up, because I was in the real estate business, and I remember doing initial internet marketing stuff, and I was like, he was doing this Wine Library TV, which is very unique, and then he moved into becoming a marketing expert, and he's extraordinarily well known. So Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. But the thing about Gary V, even as of today, there's other guys like Alex Hormozy and his wife who are the same way. They become well known because they are so immediately recognizable, much like we said is a good thing. But the way they do things is, Tony Robbins is this way. The ShamWow guy was this way. They become a caricature of themselves for other people who I don't feel can necessarily emulate that pace or intensity. So Gary V was very well known for like, I never sleep. I do, 88,000 things a day. Hustle, 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 hustle. And I'm in my 50s at the time going, yeah, dude, like, I already know you're wrong. You're wrong for me, not wrong for you, but go hang out with your kids, go chill out. Now he can't, because he's not wired that way. And I respect that. But there are people who are unique. So part of using technology intelligently, and you touched upon it in the sense of like, figure out why I'm doing this business. Why am I living this life? I know that sounds deep and philosophical, but like, let's just talk for a second about our pod and our business and people that are clients of ours versus, I don't know, the same power world or the VC world, which I have had experience with. I know on a philosophical level, I've been a millionaire, I've been bankrupt, I've been everything in between. I've been married, I've been divorced, I've raised kids, I've had so many adventures packed into this life. The physical elements, meeting tens of thousands of people in all kinds of businesses, real estate, law, and investment and technology. But I still put on my pants one leg at a time. I still basically dress and act and eat the same way when I was a multimillionaire, when I was bankrupt, when I'm in a normal world, when I was an attorney wearing suits, I am who I am, like Popeye. And so what I'm saying is, interestingly enough, when you meet people at all stages of life, at the very beginning, at the end, any state of wealth or success, the money is not important for almost everybody after their needs are met. And it becomes almost exponentially more difficult the more they make, because they start competing against people who are out of their realm. And unfortunately, this is I'm getting on my high horse a little bit. Like, I grew up in a world where there was before Reagan, at least, there was just a more gradual reality between the lower class and the upper class. It wasn't fair. There was lots of other issues in America, but like, there was a middle class that was a graduated scale, and somebody could find a spot. And we live in a world now where there's just a gargantuan space in the middle. And at least in America, we have the entrepreneurial ability, thank gosh, that you could go from the bottom to the top and back and forth, and it's encouraged, but it's there, it's available. In Europe, it's very difficult. But the point I'm getting at with all of this is that why are you doing what you do? If your purpose is to make tens of millions of dollars and you make it and you sell the company, guess what I can guarantee you? And there's a million examples of it. You'll be miserable the next morning after the high wears off, because you have nothing to do with your life. Yeah. And the money didn't matter, because unless you need surgery 24/7 or you're feeding an orphanage around the world, like, there is no need to have millions and trillions of dollars to lead a good life. And unfortunately, that also leads to other weird behavior like Elon Musk. But for the majority of people, we do have, thankfully, this freedom to create, I'll call them a lifestyle business. Maybe it's a small number of people. You could be an implementer, an agency, a WordPress type person, and you can make, without the Instagram bullshit hype. I mean, I'm not saying this person's a liar, but not $100,000 a day or come on, knock it off. You can make a 6-figure business, which puts you in the upper 90% of American lifestyle in most cities. If you make $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 and you make it from home in your jammies, you're doing pretty well, right?
Yeah. And then it all comes back to that. Like, what is your end goal? It's the same thing for athletes. They need to have an end goal of where they want to get to, but then what are you going to do after the fact? And you get people that get that, they reach that peak and then get this massive depression because they never thought of what next. And it's the same thing with someone that they made their millions, but now what's next? And it's not saying like, I'm going to say I figured it out in life, but what I've learned by watching others and dealing with a lot of athletes is you need to have that next stage, something to look forward to keep you going. Because second you reach there and you're bored, it's just, you start doing foolish things and getting yourself in trouble.
When I was younger, my father and his partner, I was in college and law school at the time, they used to do things with professional athletes. They're both attorneys, and I got to meet a lot of these guys. I wasn't really enamored with athletes like maybe as much as rock and roll stars, but the point was I got to hang with these guys, see them, and then you could see what happened because they were all in their 20s and 30s at the time. And this is the 1980s, so the 85 Chicago Bears that won the Super Bowl. And many of them were really smart. They opened up car dealerships and law practices. I mean, they went on with it, and others did not. And the reality of all of this is that it's not a dig on saying somebody has to always have their next invention, but what it really comes down to, as a marketer, I like the idea for myself and for my clients to think in terms of, why am I building something like this? Why am I doing this daily thing? Why is this, or not, important to making me happy? Because having more money at the expense of doing miserable shit, I did that in my 20s. I got in a suit and I went into court, and I was really good as a trial lawyer. I hated it. I loved real estate. But when real estate closed down on itself, I reinvented into something that matched again. Like, I was ahead of the game, but in 2008, I'm at home doing Skype calls and building membership businesses before anybody really was doing that stuff, because It was just early days. Today, I think everybody has an infinite array of no gatekeeper options. So having, back to our point, having someone, and that's where we come in to help, or using these proper tools, makes it possible for someone to be like, not put in check, but given a reality check of like, ask yourself why you're bothering this, because you don't have to follow this or that guru. And I'm not downplaying that Alex Ramosi and his wife are 100 millionaires that did the gym thing, but that's not normal. What's normal is you're good at doing website stuff, talking to normal people about a simple product that, yes, can earn 6 figures, 7 figures if you really, really do well, but maybe without you having to have 8 employees and divide it up 8 ways, or without
Yeah.
having to work 20 hours a day.
And it's like sports, right? Not everybody's going to become LeBron James or Messi or the next Tiger Woods, but that middle gap is a big enough gap where there's a lot of comfort in that middle zone that we could all live super comfortable and happy lives. And it's not to say one shouldn't aspire for more, because I find these people, whether it's Alex Hormozy or Gary Vee or like LeBron James or Jordan, they're great people to look up to kind of motivate you when you're feeling down, or when you're feeling you're not so sure about yourself. It's like they got great messages that come out, but I think the trap that happens there is we try to emulate and copy them versus just use them as a source of inspiration to get us out of a rut. Because most of us are going to be in a comfortable place where we're going to be happy and we have everything we need. And the last thing you want to have is you're chasing money, you don't spend time with your kids and your wife. Which, like, what was the whole point? If your whole point was to have a family and you're not spending time with them, it doesn't quite
I
make
mean,
sense.
I think more than ever, that's part of that cycle. When you look about generations, the 60s were known for we're kind of in that weird overlap because we had 1968, a lot of parallels to the COVID generation, but like 69, 70, 71, Summer of Love, all that stuff, like it was the antithesis kind of thing. And I think we're a little more sophisticated today, but I think you're seeing that as well with the technology coming out. There's nobody who's just saying no. I mean, maybe a few Luddites, but most people are like, fine, this is happening. I think it's more a matter of which things do I want to selectively use? And in a world of infinite technology, where do these human relationships, personalizations exist? And
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be quirky. Like if you remember the guy who'd be dressed in like 1890s gear at a Starbucks on a manual typewriter with a big beard. Remember that whole thing? It could be that you blend in, but you just kind of go back to a level of, well, maybe we're getting close to the Jetsons where they had a robot made and yet everybody knew it was a robot instead of being forced to pretend that the robot was a real person.
Yeah.
And from a marketing standpoint, we'll talk about this more. We're coming to the top of the hour, but I thought this was a fun discussion about like the takeaway for me. Maybe you'll have one for yourself. The takeaway for me is this. As a pilot, I fly small aircraft. There's some of them have new computer systems, and that's why I said I have a flight simulator where there's a lot of amazing digital tools that used to be all manual, like navigation, communication, and so forth. But if I were to go on my flight simulator, I can get in any aircraft in the world, including modern, multi-engine jets, like a 747, A380, something like that. It's incredible how many buttons and dials and things there are, even in a technology. Pilots learn you don't need all of those. It's which things out of these 5,000. So the takeaway for me is Marketing Hub, Go High Level together, incredible array of possibilities. We only need a few things, just a few things, and somebody to hold a mirror up to us.
Yep. And my biggest takeaway there was we have these few things. And I know when we're thinking of personalization, people are thinking of putting the first name in the email or first name here. But I think the most important part of the personalization is getting that person to person, is using this technology, this set of tools that simplify and give you time back to spend more time communicating and connecting with your customers, and not just via putting out a post out, but just really reaching out to them one to one at a time. If you have 365 days of the year, you could hit one person a day, and you may only hit them every 2, 3 years, but they're always remember that you actually reached out to them individually. And I think that's the most important thing I'm pushing when it comes to personalization. It's not just the squiggly bracket name, squiggly bracket. It's really you reaching out and connecting with that customer and with your person.
And genuine. You always give me such inspiration. I'm going to let you have the last word on that, but like this reminds me of LinkedIn. When LinkedIn first started, I really enjoyed the fact that when I would communicate and connect with somebody, the person's first response would be they would actually take 2 seconds to read my bio and talk about something to do with me. I cannot use LinkedIn now two-way anymore. I can only use it as publishing, because no matter who it is, the whole next generation, idiots, if I let anybody connect with me, immediately, bing, 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 bing. And it's just like 12 paragraphs of trying to sell me. It's like, have you people ever gone on a date before with a person? Like, that would be comparable to, I met you online and immediately you're giving me a marriage contract and a proposal and meet my parents. And it's like, I haven't decided if I like the way you smile, you know?
And this is where these tools are being used the wrong way. It's like, oh, spray and pray, and mass message up. It's like, no, you got to be tactful and you got to be more concise. It's like applying for a job. You don't just say post it out everywhere. You got to pick and choose your battles. And I think that's what ruins things for people, because the marketers are coming in. I'm not saying marketers are bad. I'm not here to say that, but it's like in everything, there are people that try to find the easy route, the gimmicky way, because there's no tactic behind things. But that's what ruins it for everybody else. Like, I took off my LinkedIn. I'm like, this is just annoying. Everyone's beating up their chest. And when I think of the lack of personalization, it reminds me back when Facebook came around. I used to send them happy birthday. Hey, happy birthday. Hope you have a great day. And I got messages. I'm like, oh, people cared. Then I learned it was a one-click button. I'm like, you serious? So one-click button to say happy birthday? So I took it off because I realized it wasn't as personal anymore.
I know.
And but that's all we're ever craving.
But that's the thing too, Facebook as well. Like, anybody can do this. You could, we'll do a whole show then on this, but you can set up your Facebook as a person only allows people to follow you, not friend you. Or I personally think that, well, again, we have some good content for this. That outside metal thing on the outside of my office here, I think it's called what's it called? Mailbox. That actually, sending postcards, even if you do it digitally, is a crazy old-fashioned idea. Using this computer forces you to slow down and think about what you're going to say. And in many ways, that is the part that many people's brain is lost on, especially with these automated tools. Like, oh, because some guy has an app that every single person who says yes to me on Facebook, I'm going to send him a canned message. Hello, sir, I'm Bob, and I need to give you my services. It's like, no. All right. So we'll leave that for another day. I want to say, Chris, thank you for, I enjoy the way the show is going. We're both kind of just going with the flow, because the ultimate reason we're doing this is, of course, we've got, the WP Marketing Hub connects with GoHighLevel. There is going to be some new sales pages coming up, but you can get us there or at WPLaunchify.com. You can email me, help@WPLaunchify.com. And the basic premise is that anybody can get started today with, using the WP Marketing Hub. It's $97 a month. It includes everything you need, literally, for connecting in parallel to GoHighLevel. So you've got essentially your WordPress site on an optimized Rocket server. It could be your real site or a sandbox. It's got unlimited access for email support, which is really the mirror on the wall part. Fully documented, and it's got over $3,500 of WordPress software, so you never have to buy software again. So it just makes it WordPress as a service connected to the GoHighLevel service. $97 for a single user, $297 unlimited. Just match those babies up. We're going to talk more about this, but I want to say, and reminding everybody who's coming in at the end, these shows are more for infomercial entertainment value. In other words, the topics that surround the business that people do, I think we're really having some fun with it, and I would like to continue. So,
yeah. And I think the best way to put the bow on the end of this topic is, as you said, sending out, whether it's a video message or a personalized message, communicating with your person, is the equivalent to sending a postcard in today's era. No one's writing a handwritten message. It's going to hit different. It feels more personal. It's more intimate. So doing the same thing to leverage the technology to spend more time communicating with your customer is all we're trying to get at when it comes to personalization.
Yeah, right. And actually, ironically, the conversation comes down to same tools, but you might do less with the automated tools. In other words, one email campaign on a Friday versus 12 nurturing messages every single day, or 32 text messages, or a bot that pretends to be. It's the same tools. You're just going to use it more judiciously. That was a lot. And in doing so, get a better result, because people now, I think, acknowledge you respect the world they're in today. Hey, dude, I got 300 things waiting for my attention. You are not that important. Oh, you only gave me one line. Next time, I'm going to open yours first, because yours doesn't give me any anxiety. But we'll have some fun in our next show about this. We've got about 20 really cool topics already lined up. So we'll keep doing this once a week, and we're going to be doing some other stuff around it. Chris, I hope you enjoy your weekend. Thanks for joining me.
Likewise, all the best, and have a great surgery.
All right, good. Thank you. And yes,
ciao, everybody.
$6 million man will be back next week, fully rebuilt. We'll see you guys then. Ciao.
Ciao.